There's a boy in the girls' bathroom. Chapter 45. Bradley watched Jeff poke his finger into the doorbell and heard it ring inside the house. Then there was a loud scream. A moment later, Colleen opened the door. Happy birthday, he sang, but stopped when Jeff elbowed him in his side. This is for you, Jeff said, handing Colleen his present. This is for you, said Bradley as he did the same. Oh, what is it? She asked. It's a, Bradley started, but Jeff elbowed him again, so he shut his mouth. They followed Colleen into the house. You're not supposed to tell her what you got her, Jeff whispered. But she asked. She's supposed to ask. But you're not supposed to tell her. Don't tell anyone. Bradley nodded like he understood, but of course he didn't. Hello, Bradley, said Melinda. He looked to Jeff for help. Hello, Melinda, said Jeff. Hello, Melinda, said Bradley. Colleen's mother came in and led everyone out to the backyard. A picnic table had been set up on the patio with paper plates and cups. Bradley chose a seat and sat down. My, this boy must be hungry, said Colleen's mother. The girls laughed. Bradley looked around, puzzled. He was the only one sitting down. He quickly rose, bumping against the table. A paper cup fell onto the ground. As he bent down to pick it up, he knocked over his chair. The girls were hysterical. Bradley looked around helplessly. Amy picked up the cup and Dina set the chair right. We don't eat yet, Jeff explained as Bradley made it safely away from the table. First we have to play games. Bradley turned pale. Just do whatever I do, said Jeff. Our large dog dashed out through the back door and jumped up on Bradley, putting his muddy paws on his clean shirt. Bradley nearly fell over. Chicken, get down, scolded Colleen's mother. Chicken had wiry red hair and a square face. He got down, but stayed by Bradley's side. Chicken's usually afraid of everybody, said Colleen. Bradley patted his head. Glad Chicken liked him. Mrs. Varigold split the group into two teams for a relay race. She put Jeff and Bradley on separate teams because she said it wouldn't be fair for the boys to be together. Bradley lined up with the other members of his team. He was in the middle. Amy and Betty were in front of him. Judy and Dina were behind him. On the other team, Jeff was talking to Colleen. Bradley wondered if he should talk to one of the girls on his team, but he didn't know what to say. Besides, they were all talking to each other. He petted Chicken. On your mark, said Mrs. Varigold. Get set. Go! Suddenly the race started and everyone on his team was screaming, Come on, Amy! Go! Run, Amy! Faster! He watched Amy run and touch a tree at the end of the yard, then turn around and come back. She slapped Betty's hand, then Betty ran toward the tree. Run, Betty! Everyone except Bradley shouted. Slow down, Betty, he whispered to himself, hoping his turn would never come. He turned around. Judy was behind him, yelling to Betty. Do you want to go next? He asked her. Stick your hand out, she hollered back. He spun around and stuck his hand out just in time. Betty slapped it and he took off. He ran as hard as he could go to the tree. Go, Bradley, he heard someone yell. Come on, Bradley. It made him want to run faster than he'd ever run before. Chicken barked at his side. Melinda was running for the other team. She had started before him, but he beat her to the tree. He almost slipped and fell, but caught his balance and charged back toward his cheering teammates. Come on, Bradley, they all yelled. He slapped Judy's hand, then bent over to catch his breath. He turned and shouted louder than everyone. Go, Judy, run! Then, come on, Dina. Dina crossed the finish line and everyone on his team jumped up and down. What happened? He asked. We won, said Betty. He jumped up and down too. That means we each get 2 points, said Judy. That was something new. Jeff hadn't told him anything about points. Judy explained it to him. Everyone on the winning team gets 2 points, and everyone on the losing team gets 1 point. Betty interrupted. It would come out the same if they just gave 1 point to the winners and nothing to the losers, she said. But this way the losers don't feel as bad. I'm telling him, said Judy. After each race, we trade teams, and then at the end of all the races, Colleen's mother counts up the points, and the girl with the most points gets first pick from the basket of prizes. Then the girl with the second most gets second pick, and so on. Colleen's mother has a chart with everyone's name on it to keep track of the points, explained Betty. I'm telling him, said Judy. Colleen's mother has a chart. Bradley laughed with delight. Are all birthday parties this much fun? He asked. Judy and Betty looked at each other. The only thing that made this party special was the boys, but they couldn't tell that to Bradley. Haven't you ever been to a birthday party before? Asked Betty. Not for a long time. I got kicked out of the last one I went to. Well, if you have any questions, just ask me, said Betty. Or me, said Judy. I've been to more birthday parties than you, said Betty. You have not, said Judy. She hasn't. What about Holly's birthday party? Asked Betty. You didn't go to that one. That's because we were still on vacation, said Judy. So, you still didn't go? They had to switch teams for the next relay race. This time Bradley was with Betty, Amy, Karen, and Melinda. For this race, everyone had to hop on one foot. On one foot? Bradley exclaimed. He rooted loudly for everyone on his team, and when it was his turn, he heard them all cheer for him. His team won again. You're an excellent hopper, Melinda, he said after the race. You hopped twice as far as Colleen on each hop. Melinda beamed. You're a good hopper, too, she said. Colleen's mother marked the points on the chart, and they switched teams for the next race. This time, they had to hop on both feet. On both feet, Bradley exclaimed. They continued changing teams for each new race. He and Jeff were never allowed on the same team, and since Colleen always made sure that she was on Jeff's team, Bradley was never with her either. He was glad about that. He felt comfortable with everybody else, but he was still a little scared of Colleen. He was afraid she might ask him another question he wasn't supposed to answer. Lori was on his team for the backward race. She stood behind him in a line and screamed in his ear the whole time. He loved it. He had to shout twice as loud just to hear himself. His ear was still ringing when Mrs. Varigold announced that the next race would be a somersault race. The smile left his face. He didn't know how to do a somersault. He looked anxiously at Chicken. But as it turned out, nobody on his team could do a somersault. It was hilarious. Everyone was laughing. When it was his turn, he rolled and flopped in every direction except the way he was supposed to go. And every time he hit the ground, Chicken tried to lick his face. Perhaps he would have done better if he could have stopped laughing. Everyone on the other team was good at somersaults. The teams just worked out that way. Karen was the best. You should be in the Olympics, he told her after the race. She smiled and blushed. Bradley smiled too. Even though his team lost, he thought it had been the most fun race of the day. Plus, when the girls somersaulted in their party dresses, he could see their underwear. Chapter 46. Colleen's mother told everyone to find a partner for the three-legged race. Jeff and Colleen looked nervously at each other. Judy and Betty paired up. They stood side by side with their arms around each other's shoulders as Mrs. Varigold tied their inside legs together. Lori and Melinda became another team. Bradley thought they looked funny since Melinda was almost twice Lori's size. Amy and Dina looked even funnier, since they were both dressed the same. They looked like a two-headed monster. Except, of course, he didn't believe in monsters. Karen suddenly realized what was happening. If Jeff and Colleen became partners, it meant she'd have to be partners with Bradley. So, Jeff said to Colleen, who's your partner? No one yet, said Colleen. Who's yours? No one yet. Colleen's mother stepped in and paired up the final two teams. She didn't think it would be proper for a boy and a girl to have their legs tied together, so she made Jeff and Bradley one team and Colleen and Karen the other. Bradley was glad that he and Jeff were finally on the same team. Colleen and Jeff were happy with the teams too. As much as they liked each other, they weren't quite ready to put their arms around each other and tie their legs together. Karen was the only one who was disappointed. She thought it would have been exciting to be partners with Bradley. The 5 teams lined up. It wasn't a relay race. Each team would go at the same time. They had to run past the tree to the fence, then back. Don't try to run too fast, Jeff cautioned. The most important thing is that we keep together so we don't fall down. Bradley nodded. On your mark, said Mrs. Varigold. Get set, go. They took 2 steps, then tumbled to the ground. As they tried to get up, they kept pulling each other back down. At last they stood up together and started after the others. Inside, outside, Jeff directed as they moved their legs in unison. The other teams took a long time turning around the fence, but when Jeff and Bradley reached the fence, they simply fell down again and stood up facing the other direction. It was quicker that way. Amy and Dina were just ahead of them. Amy tried to go to the left of the tree as Dina tried to go to the right of it. They smashed into it. Inside, outside, said Jeff as he and Bradley charged around them. Karen and Colleen were in the lead when they suddenly stumbled and fell on their faces. Judy and Betty tumbled over them. Lori and Melinda had to stop and turn to avoid the pile. Jeff and Bradley charged past, now in first place. Inside, outside, called Jeff, but they must have missed a beat somewhere because when he said inside, they moved their outside feet, and when they said outside, they moved their inside feet. Hey, Bradley, you're going the wrong way, yelled Lori. Whoa, Amy and Dina dived across the finish line in first place, just ahead of Lori and Melinda. Jeff and Bradley crawled in third. Judy, Betty, Judy, Betty, Karen, and Colleen remained tangled together in the grass. After everyone got untied, they gathered on the grass next to the patio. Now what? Bradley asked. Nobody in particular. Colleen's mother is adding up the points, said Betty. Then we'll get to pick our prizes, said Judy. He asked me, said Betty. Everyone hushed as Mrs. Varigold prepared to announce the winner. The winner is, she paused suspensefully, Bradley. He was shocked. He had been on the winning team every time except for the three-legged race and the somersault race, but he had been having too much fun to notice. Everyone clapped their hands as he walked to the front. Mrs. Varigold gave him a blue ribbon that said first place on it. No one had told him about the ribbon. Then he got to pick a prize. He looked through the basket. There were lots of good things from which to choose. Dolls, makeup, perfume, earrings, hair ornaments. He chose a harmonica. Melinda came in second. Then Amy, Judy, Dina, Karen, Lori, and Betty, and Jeff was last. Jeff knew he'd be last, since he was never on Bradley's team. The only race he won was a somersault race. Actually, he had tied for last with Colleen, but Colleen didn't get a prize because she'd be getting all her presents later. Jeff took the only prize left in the basket, a doll's dress. Thank you, he said politely. Now what? Bradley asked. We have ice cream and cake, said Melinda. Oh boy, said Bradley. Melinda laughed. They sat at the picnic table. Colleen sat at the head of the table. Bradley sat between Jeff and Melinda. Judy and Betty sat across from him. Mrs. Varigold's going to bring in the cake now, said Judy. With candles, said Betty. I'm telling him, said Judy. With candles. Mrs. Varigold brought in the cake, and suddenly everyone started singing. Bradley was caught by surprise. He didn't have time to remember the words, though he tried. He sang, Happy birthday, dear to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, dear Colleen. Happy birthday, dear, to you. Happy birthday to... He suddenly realized he was the only one still singing. Everyone laughed. It's not his fault, said Judy. This is his first birthday party in a long time. There are 10 candles because she's 10 years old, explained Betty. Oh, I get it, said Bradley. Lori laughed. Colleen blew them all out. That means her wish will come true, explained Melinda. But she can't tell you what she wished for, otherwise it won't come true, Lori explained. Bradley carefully ate his cake and ice cream without making a mess. Then everyone went into the living room where Colleen opened her presents. Open mine. Mine first, they urged. That one's mine. Open mine, Colleen, said Bradley. After each present was opened, everyone said, how neat, and ooh, and I wish I had one of those. Bradley said those things too, and he meant what he said, although most of the gifts were things he would never have wanted. Colleen picked up the next present. That's mine, he shouted. Colleen read the card. On the front of the card, there was a picture of a baseball player swinging a baseball bat. It said, here's hoping your birthday is... On the inside of the card, it showed the bat smacking a ball and said, a big hit. Under that, it said, happy birthday, and it was signed, Love, Bradley. Everyone went crazy. Love, exclaimed Amy. Love? Bradley's heart sank as he realized he had made a terrible mistake. Bradley's in love with Colleen, said Dina. Ooh, Bradley, said Judy. When are you going to get married? Teased Lori. Shut up, Karen shouted. Everyone stopped talking and looked at her very surprised. Big deal, said Karen. You're all so immature. Colleen tore off the wrapping paper and looked at Bradley's gift. Her mouth dropped open. She showed it to everyone. Wow, said Lori. Let me see, said Amy. It was a replica of the human heart. They could see all the blood vessels, the aorta, and all the capillaries. The heart valves opened and shut. It could be taken apart and put back together again. How neat, said Melinda. I wish I had one of those, said Betty. Bradley smiled proudly. He felt happier about the fact that Colleen liked his present than about coming in the first place. But, of course, he knew all along she'd like it. Carla had told him to give her a present from the heart. Colleen opened the rest of her presents, then everyone went home. Jeff and Bradley left together. It was still light outside, although the street lights had come on. So? Asked Jeff. That was fun, Bradley exclaimed. It was the most at first when I gave Colleen her present and she asked me what it was. I almost told her. And then when I was the only one sitting at the table. My, this boy must be hungry. But then the races started and everyone got points, even the losers. Only next time I won't sign it Love. Karen's a good somersaulter. Chicken's a funny name for a dog. Maybe if they get a chicken, they'll name it Dog. He blew into his harmonica. The doll's dress dangled from Jeff's hand. Chapter 47. Dear Carla. Hi, what color shirt are you wearing today? I'm sorry I yelled at you. Guess what? I got 100% on my arithmetic test. Can you believe it? And I didn't rip it up. I would have sent it to you, but I can't because it's hanging on a wall in Mrs. Ebel's class. Do you like teaching kindergarten? I bet you're a good teacher. Ask them to draw pictures for you. You should teach them how to do somersaults too. Thanks for giving me back the book which you already gave me. I'm sending you a present too. It's a gift from the heart, so you can't return it. Love, crossed out. Yours truly, crossed out. Love, Bradley. P.S. Her name is Ronnie. Bradley folded the letter and put it in the envelope. He wrote Carla's name on the outside and addressed it to Willow Bend School. Ronnie gave Bartholomew a big hug and kiss. Well, goodbye, everybody, she said. Goodbye, Ronnie, said everybody. I'll miss you, said Bartholomew. Bradley placed the little red rabbit with the broken ear inside the envelope. He stared out his window for a moment, then looked back down at the bulge in the envelope. He frowned, but it was an unusual frown. In fact, it might have been a smile.